Hello everyone and welcome back to my YouTube channel. If you're watching me for the first time, hi, my name is Twinkle and in today's video I'm going to be covering up another airline. In fact, I'm going to make a comparison between two of the most luxurious airlines. Yes, we're going to make a comparison between SIA, which is the Singapore Airlines, as well as Qatar Airways. And the focus of the comparison is going to be in terms of employment. If you're someone who's confused and want to take a decision about having to work in Singapore Airlines or Qatar Airways and which one to join, then this video is a must for you. And for others who have plans to be in any of these airlines as a cabin crew, then also this is going to really help you. So what are we waiting for? Without wasting any time, let's just get into the video. But if you haven't subscribed to my channel yet, then go ahead, subscribe to my channel, like and share this video because it only motivates me to do much better. Let's start now. So what I've done is I have clearly made some categories so it's easy for you to also remember and make a clean, crisp comparison between the two. And as per your priority and your preference, even you are able to select an airline for you. Before I start, this is a disclaimer that everybody's priorities and preferences are different and so can be their choices, and this is only an initiative to help you know the facts that can help you decide and take a better decision. So let's start with the most important thing, which is the salary structure. So if you talk about the salary structure for Qatar, the basic salary that you start with is 3,800 Qatari Riyals, which is, if we say in INR, becomes somewhere around 76,000 because one Qatari Riyal is equal to around 20 rupees. And there is also an hourly allowance that you get, which is once you start flying, 50 Riyals per hour. If we convert it into Indian rupees, it becomes approximately 1,000 rupees per hour. So if, for example, you make 80 hours, you divide by 1,000, 80,000 additional. But this is after flying, right? In your training, you only stick to 3,800 into 20, which is around 76,000 rupees. Apart from that, you also get a welcome bonus of 1,000 Riyals, which used to be 2,000 Riyals initially. Now it has been made to 1,000 Riyals on arrival to cover your quick expenses. Salary during your training is also 3,800 Riyals, which I already mentioned. If we talk about Singapore Airlines, then your fixed salary is of approximately 4,500 Singaporean dollars. If you convert it into Indian rupee, it becomes approximately 2,80,000 per month. There is a fixed monthly allowance of 500 Singapore dollars, which is variable as per what's mentioned in their documents. And apart from that, in your training, you get 1,350 Singaporean dollars, which if you convert becomes 83,600 rupees approximately. So this is the amount of salary you make in both the airlines, including flying allowance, fixed basic salary, as well as your welcome bonus. You have both the numbers. You can do the math and decide for yourself if salary is one of your, should be an interesting factor and a contributing factor for your selection. Let's talk about the accommodation and transport for both the airlines. So if we talk about Qatar Airways, they provide you transport. Not just that, they also provide you accommodation where you are going to be sharing the accommodation, but you have separate rooms. What about the bathrooms, etc.? That might be shared, might not be shared, depending upon the kind of apartment you get. But accommodation, transport, more than that, even uniform laundry is also covered and provided by the company lifelong for the whole period of time. However, Singapore Airlines is very clear about it that they will not provide you any accommodation, transport or uniform laundry. Nothing would be provided to you while you are working as a cabin crew on this airline. So it's pretty crystal clear. Where you get something, you don't get anything is compared to Qatar Airways if you talk about Singapore Airlines. Let's talk about the air tickets and tickets benefits in general. So if you talk about Qatar Airways, you get one free annual ticket, which is also common in case of Singapore Airlines. However, you also have a lot of ID50 and ID90 tickets, which are discounted tickets for your extended family. Yes, that is another fact, that you have to add those family members within time and your friends, and there are limited number. And there are also similar kind of benefits with Singapore Airlines also. So in case of tickets that they provide you and one free annual ticket, it's pretty much the same. Now let's talk about the bond or the contract that you have to sign in before you get into any of these airlines as a cabin crew. So Qatar Airways is currently keeping you on a bond or a contract, fixed employment of 3 years, as compared to Singapore Airlines, which want you to be associated with them for a period of 5 years. If you talk about the money, security deposit or any training fees, in both the airlines you're not supposed to pay even a single penny from your pocket, which means no security deposit, no training fees, nothing of that sort. Everything will be covered by the company. However, once you start earning, once you get your salary credited in your account, there will be a small amount of deduction every month for a period of 2 years or 3 years depending upon the company. It's 2 years in case of Qatar, and there is some amount that is also refunded to you. This is just to give the company an assurance that they're spending some money on you, and they should also get the costs that they are going to incur on training you. Talk about the medical benefits and insurance. Both the companies, in fact most of the airlines, offer you some medical benefits and insurance, but that's not extended to your family and is only limited to you as a person. Yes, however, as far as I know, Qatar Airways with their medical benefits and insurance is much more exclusive as compared to Singapore Airlines, because they have cashless cards that they offer you that can be used all around the world. Yes, in some cases there might be a pre-approval that is required from the company, or from sometimes a medical, there has to be some paperwork, but most of the times, specifically if you're into Qatar, it is done seamlessly. So we come down to a point where if you talk about ease of relocation, I would hands down give it to Qatar Airways, because if you talk about accommodation, transport, welcome bonus, and even your visa and government procedures and paperwork and documentation is much easier and assisted in case of Qatar Airways, and there are positive responses, which means that your possibility and probability of facing a rejection in terms of visas is much less as compared to Singapore Airlines. So ease of relocation, because they offer you everything. If everything is done for you, you only have to travel. That too, everything is sorted by Qatar Airways as compared to Singapore Airlines is easier in case of QR. Let's talk about the growth opportunities and exposure to the environment and nationality base that you're getting exposed to. So if we talk about Qatar Airways, so Qatar Airways, you're exposed to over 120 nationalities covering 140 destinations over 6 continents, which if compared to Singapore Airlines have 130 plus destinations over 5 continents. However, their nationalities are restricted to Asians only. So quite clearly the exposure that you have to the nationality base, the culture, the different diversity that you'll see is much more in terms of Qatar. Even when you're staying in Doha, the place that you move to, you will see more diversity. However, if you compare Singapore, Singapore is cream luxury, which also means a lot of expenditure, since Singapore is very expensive as compared to Qatar Airways, and this point I'll cover when we talk about savings and the money that you will save in case of both the airlines. Talking about growth and opportunities, the amount of opportunities you get in Qatar is much more than Singapore, because the rate of attrition is also high in Qatar. It's very easy. Qatar keeps on recruiting very fast, because as much as employees they are hiring, there is a good number of people who are also leaving the profession. Easy because different people, much more, the more people you have, the more preferences they have, opportunities, choices they have. So they come, do the work and leave also. Not everybody stays there for years and years. Therefore, the growth also, which is performance based, mind you, is faster. So for example, you join the airline, within 2 to 2.5 years, you'll be promoted to the first class cabin, another 2 years to supervisor position, another 2 to 3 years, you'll become the director heading the aircraft. Keeping in mind your assessments, performance and your files are clear and you're doing your job well. However, in case of Singapore Airlines, it is quite stagnant, just as Air India. You will not be promoted that early, especially when you're coming as a senior into the company. You're not given any rebate. nothing special is done for you in case you're an experienced person. So you might have 6 to 8 years of experience, but it doesn't matter, because you're going to be there as a fresher and your growth is going to be stagnant. You're going to start afresh. So make up your mind and know that you're not going to get promoted and have to work and start from scratch in case of Singapore Airlines. Having said that, you also start from scratch in Qatar Airways, but they do put you on a fast track profile if you're someone who's experienced. Let's talk about the base station, which is going to be Qatar and Singapore. Then there is no comparison between both the countries. One is famous for how rich it is, the number of people and nationalities you'll ever see in one country is to the highest and max in case of Qatar as compared to Singapore. It's going to be cream, it's luxurious, but it's also very expensive. Needless to say that it's going to be very hard to make the kind of savings that you will do in case of Qatar. Yes, I see that the salary is a tad bit higher when you start, but the amount of promotions and the salary hikes you get in Qatar is nothing as compared to what you'll get in Singapore. There is no comparison between the two. I'm not saying one is bad, one is better, or you have to choose this or that. However, there are clear differences in some aspects if you know what I'm talking here. Talking about the rules, if Qatar is surrounded by a lot of rules as compared to what are you supposed to wear, your freedom is something that you're concerned about, what you can't really follow rules and you feel like that it's going to hamper your personal life, then Qatar Airways is not for you. Well, from someone who has been into the country and in the airline for over a decade, it's not that difficult, trust me, because you hardly stay in Doha. But if you're in Singapore, there are rules, if not related to your freedom, if you can live your life, stay wherever you want, if there are no restrictions, if that is something that you're looking for, well, sure, you can choose it, because anyway, you're going to spend on your own accommodations, and of course the cost is higher, but there are still rules which the country follows, which are also very strict. Finally, concluding it with one single statement, that savings in terms of Qatar Airways will be much more as compared to SIA, because if you plan to go and return in some years, of course, you have to plan it wisely. Talking about your future, in Qatar, you do not get a permanent residency. Yes, that you heard it right. If you plan to stay in Qatar, you have to renew your RP, which is the resident permit, after a certain period of time, which is 1 year or 2 years. But in case of Singapore Airlines, you have multiple prospects where you can do much better if you want to settle down in Singapore. No, I'm not saying that you don't have prospects in Qatar Airways. You have multiple prospects, but things in Qatar, being in the Middle East, works differently. You need a sponsor to take care of you and your future prospects. However, in Singapore, if you plan to stick to that country, you have plans to move to that place, being in Singapore Airlines can be a soft ladder for you for your future opportunities as compared to Qatar. You will never get a permanent residency. That's the country rule. All you get is a resident permit for whatever number of years you want to stay there, and you have to get it renewed in a certain period of time regularly. And that's pretty much about it. I've covered around 9 to 10 categories and divided their own benefits in a very brief and crisp manner, because everybody wants a crisp information. Apart from that, if you need any other help, suggestion, comment or question, you know the drill, put it down in the comment section below. And if you found this video helpful, and in future if you seek to get a comparison video between any of the airlines, then you know, also put them in the comment section below. I will see you in my next one. Also, don't forget to let me know if you're also struggling to choose between both the airlines. Let me know which airline have you chosen or will be choosing in future with your reasons intact. See you in my next video. Take care and bye-bye.